Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome to RV Rapid Transit's Transit Talk. This is our monthly webinar where it is our goal to give you the latest in transportation news, events, things, and topics that are happening around the Richmond, Virginia region. My name is Faith Walker, the Executive Director of RV Rapid Transit, and I'm so excited to have you here today. For those of you who this is your first time and don't know us, RVA Rapid Transit is a nonprofit. We advocate for frequent and far-reaching public transportation, and I'll get into our mission and goals in just a little bit. Today, we're releasing our State of Transit report, where we're going to be diving deep into a yearly report that we put out. But before we do that, I want to go over some housekeeping rules. This is recorded, and so we want to share this information again. We'll post this on our YouTube page. So not only we want to share it, but you can share it as well. And so you'll be able to look back on this, but also spread the word about this report. And so we will ask everyone to keep themselves on mute, and we'll open it up for Q&A at the end of the call. So to get started, before we start, we always want to give you some news. So in the news and what's up with the bus, here recently, we just had the biggest event of the year, which is our State of Transit reception. We had 191 participants register. I mean, this is by far probably the biggest amount of registrations we had in an event, and it was phenomenal. We had folks come from all over the region, literally all over the state. We had people from Charlottesville. We even had people from the DMV area, Washington, D.C., to come down for this momentous event. And so we had great engagement. We had a group of elected officials, the mayor of Ashland. We had several Chesterfield County boards of supervisors, Mark Miller, as well as Jessica Schneider. And then we also had so many different types of folks. We had transit enthusiasts. We had bus riders. We also engage a lot of different stakeholders when it comes to advocating for transportation, and also consultants. GRTC showed up and showed out. GRTC was a major supporter of this report, and we really appreciate them with the data, but also the financial support as being a sponsor. So thank you to everyone who participated and made this event such a momentous one. And then going on, Sandston Elko microtransit launch. This is the fifth microtransit zone that GRTC has launched this year. Oh, not this year, just in general. And microtransit, it's fairly new to GRTC. What it does is it offers door-to-door curb service, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But the Sandston, and so the RVA Rapid Transit team on yesterday attended. I think this was probably one of their best launches. And so it took place at the Henrico Theater. And you can see here to the left, there were some major players on doing a ribbon cutting, and then information shared about the zone. And then to the right is our beautiful RVA Rapid Transit team. Okay, and this is a quick picture of what the Sandston, this is probably one of the biggest zones, I would think, that this and Ashland could go neck and neck, but this covers quite a bit of ground. And as you can see, this zone covers Eastgate Town Center all the way through to the airport, all the way through Elko area. And so, and off of Williamsburg Road. And so I'm excited to get a little bit more information in the next weeks or so about where are people using it the most. And so as you can see, the 7A and the 91 and the 4B, these are the three fixed route services that this zone connects to. And so if you live in these areas, work in these areas, you now have access to transportation that is door to door if it's within the purple lines, okay? And so I want to be, so we'll go into what microtransit is in just a second. So what I want to do right now is turn it over to Courtney Farrar. She's our transit ambassador. And what she's going to do is she's going to talk about engaging with bus riders. This is one of our core pillars in making sure that we engage with bus riders directly, and she's taken that on with her love of transit, but also community. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Courtney. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. Like Faith said, I'm Courtney Farrar, the Transit Ambassador for RVA Rapid Transit. With the team, it has been really actually fun and rewarding to go out and talk to people. A lot of people are really grateful, and it leads to us directly being able to run our Riders Voice portion of our organization, where we make sure that we amplify their voices through board meetings, through op-eds, through and our most famous audiograms, which we love to do and love to see. And we just want to make sure that today with these stories that we highlight motherhood while riding the bus, as well as access to further areas for leisure, because we talk a lot about work, but we don't talk a lot about having a little fun on the bus. So Brittany, if you would take it away with the click clicks.
Okay, I'll play it, and I'll start with Lima, okay?
Yes.
Lima. My name is Lima, and I usually catch 1A and also 2B. And it would be nice if they had something for the mothers with strollers, because it's not only the people that's in wheelchairs that's having a hard time getting on a bus, like myself. Sometimes when I get on the bus, I'll be having contractions, and a lot of times the bus drivers can be rude, and also they will ride right past you. So maybe if we can like work on that, then that would be a big help. But let's not forget about the pregnant women and the mothers with strollers.
Okay, and I guess Ruby is next. And so I'll go ahead and play Ruby.
My name is Ruby Williams. I take the 7A or 7B. I would like to have a bus that goes down Mechanicsville Turnpike. I would like to be able to go to the Walmart or Lowe's or just to do some basic shopping.
Awesome. So just to do some basic shopping up and down Mechanicsville, Ruby, I live off of Mechanicsville, and there is no access for that entire corridor. So I hear you, Ruby. Thank you so much, Courtney, for the work you're doing and the awesome time that you're putting to bring these stories to light and making the audiogram. So thank you so much for the work that you do. And so what I want to do right now is get into the meat and bones of why we're all here, our state of transit report. So bear with me one moment while we get all set up. And so each year, one of the things that we do is we put out a state of transit report. And so what we want to do is remind the region of where we are when it comes to the conditions of public transportation for our region, but also to where do we need to go. And so in 2022, I believe that's when we put out the first report, and it highlight the progress that we've made so far. And so today I want to invite on our research fellow, Brittany, who's done a great job in managing this report. So I'm going to bring her on right now. And if you could just introduce yourself, Brittany, and just explain your role, that would be grateful.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brittany Thomas King, and I was brought on to be the research fellow this year for RVA Rapid Transit. So this report has shown a lot of progress that has happened within the last year. I'm so proud that we were able to get this out even within a time crunch. We've had a wonderful team, and I believe like as we go through this report, you will get a lot of great information that will not only provide you with a level of education, it's something you can take back out into the world to advocate for better public transit within the city of Richmond and regionally.
Great. So great point, Brittany. So Brittany and I will be tag teaming and presenting this report to you. And so I just want to start off by saying thank you to our sponsors, Sheltering Arms, GRTC, and Southern Environmental Law Center, as well as the Office of Community Wealth Building. Thank you so much for help sponsoring this report. And so let's go ahead and move on to the next one. And so this is a little bit about our mission. RVA Rapid Transit, we educate, we organize, and we advocate for expanding investment in a comprehensive regional public transportation system that is high quality, that is frequent, and that is far-reaching. And we really have focused our advocacy work centered around what writers want and say, especially with the work that Courtney does, collecting those comments. And so we came up with these 4 key things. So more buses. So we want to see more buses, period, when it comes to frequency. Frequency is very important because frequency determines whether or not someone can get to a job at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. And then, but also in relationship to how you commute and how long you commute. A lot of people are hourly workers, so being able to catch a bus within 10 to 15 minutes versus every hour really impacts their pay. More places. We want to see buses go places that it doesn't currently go. And so right now, 80% of the buses that run with our region operate within the city limits. And so we want to see more buses going out into the county lines where jobs are. Dignified places to wait. Because we've all experienced this intense heat, but can you imagine being in the heat and you having no shelter? And so people are working, going to work every day, feeding their families. That's a dignified thing to do. And so they should have a dignified place to wait while they're doing those dignified things. And so we're advocating that more shelters and benches go around the region. The writer's voice, this is a core part of the work. As you can imagine, Courtney is engaging with bus riders and getting the core needs and wants of what's happening on the ground. We want to make sure that those voices are implemented in transit planning and decision-making with different programs. And we'll go over those programs a little bit later. And then last but not least, zero fare. Zero fare is a core pillar. As you can imagine, zero fare has been operating for about 4 years now. All right, let's go on to how we got started. And so our story, we're celebrating 10 years. So give it up for RVA Rapid Transit. In 2011, the Brookings Institute rated Richmond 92 out of 100 cities in terms of access to jobs by public transportation. So we were 8th from the bottom. You know, how will we compare ourselves to 100 other US cities around the United States? And in 2011, we were 92. And so because of that study, a group of clergy got together and formed a movement, okay? And with that movement, as you can see, we have a little timeline here. Some of that movement started within Richmond Hill. And this is one of the first meetings that took place to talk about that report that was done and what needs to happen. And then in September 25th of 2013, a group of clergy got together and went to the borders where a lot of transportation stopped and prayed that there was a move of God happening to build those bridges and to help people be able to navigate through the region. In 2014, we had our Ready to Ride campaign for bus rapid transit. And then in 2016, this is a group of those clergy, of those volunteers, all going to a Chesterfield County board meeting and advocating that Chesterfield board members will put a bus on Route 1. There was no bus on Route 1. There was no bus going to, at that point, it was called, I forget what it was called then, but right now it's called Bright Point College. There was no bus operating. And so as you can see from 2016 to 2024, a lot of changes happened. And then in 2022, this is a picture of me advocating that and sharing writers' voices and stories on how the impact of zero fare has impacted folks. And that day, GRGC voted to extend zero fare another year, which was great. And then, as you can see, in 2024, just this past legislation, we advocated that for HB 285. So we'll go to the next one.
Thank you, Faith, for that. So to begin this report, the main thing we wanted to focus on this year was not only the progress, but how transportation and health is interrelated. So with the help of Sandra Cerna, who is who works with us at the Virginia Department of Health, we recognize that in order to have, health equity, we need public transit is fundamental. It affects riders on every level, whether it's access to quality health care, education opportunities, and economic stability. And when a rider does not have that, it can affect their health in a negative way. In addition, something that affects people across the board is air pollution, which is caused when there's more car dependence as opposed to public transportation. And when these air pollution happens, it can cause a lot of asthma and respiratory illnesses. And this week, we, myself and our intern, Jemiah, went out with this weather, and we got temperatures from 130 to 150 degrees.
Wow.
So we also know that it is important for residents to, for riders to have bus shelters, because not only does it make a more pleasant experience, it also can affect their health in a negative or positive way. So we'll begin with our first pillar, which is more buses, more places. So in this section, we're going to talk about the progress that has been made within the last year. So in 2023, there was a bus operator shortage. I'm happy to say in 2024, there is no shortage. Over the past year, GRTC has increased their wages over 45%. Over 120 employees were hired within a 15-month span. And not only are bus routes have been restored, they have been expanded. There's now more high frequency routes, the 1A, the 5, the 19, and there's also a micro transit link stations that have been added since 2023.
And so I want to, go ahead.
You got it, Faith.
Yeah, so we're tag teaming here. I just wanted to, before I turn it back to Brittany to go over these maps, I want to explain to you that in 2017, Plan RVA and the entire region, the 9 jurisdictions that fall under Plan RVA's planning. And so these are all the regions that you see here. And so what they decided is that the vision plan that needs to take place for 2040, okay? And so these visions happen 20 years in advance. And so they all agree that by 2040, that 13 corridors within the entire region that connects Ashland to Petersburg, to New Kent, to Goochland, to Chesterfield, to Powhatan, will all offer anywhere from 10 to 15 minute service, okay? So can you imagine 13 different pulse buses running, okay? And so there's so much more that took place on that 2040 vision plan, but what we wanted to do was focus on the main 13 corridors, okay? And so I'll let Brittany describe and take over this map, okay? So take it away.
Yep. So we're going to go a little bit more in depth and zoom into specific sections. So the first section that we want to look at is the Northwest region. So that encompasses, you have Short Pump and you have Ashland. So you can see from in 2023, where you see West Broad Street, services were about 30 minutes. And this year in 2024, we now have 15-minute service. So someone can get on the bus in Rockets Landing and take the Pulse, which is 10-minute service, and then connect to a 15-minute service, which is absolutely amazing. And will not only allow people from the city to go to Short Pump, where there are a ton of job centers, it will also allow people from Short Pump to come work in the city more easily. And I'm going to go back to that actually also. So with Ashland here at the top, there's also been a micro transit pilot zone added, which is on average 20-minute service. And this started in the fall of 2023. So in this report, we'll go a little bit deeper and I'll let you know what the micro transit zones are.
Brittany, it may be helpful to go back to that first slide and break down the different colors, like
Mhm.
what the blue means, and
Yeah.
what each color, so people can realize where the zones are.
Yep. So where you see the blue turquoise line, that represents 10-minute service. The green represents 15-minute service. The yellow on the map is 30-minute routes. And the 60-minute will be the orange. And where you see the red is where we currently do not have service, but where we hope to in the future to have it. And if you see this light tan color in these outlines, these represent the new microtransit zones that have been. So the next zone that we're going to look at is the Northeast Region Zone. So this encompasses Mechanicsville and the Eastern Henrico to the airport. So when it comes to fixed routes, you can see that not a ton of progress has been made, but the biggest changes that two microtransit zones have been added. We have Azalea and we have the Sandston, which is going to be launched July 1. And for the southern region, like the other, not much has happened with the fixed routes, but we've added the Cloverdale microtransit zone this year, which connects to the city. So from Hull Street, the city, all the way through Midlothian, people, residents, riders now have access.
And
So-
one thing I think we should definitely highlight in that other map is Midlothian Turnpike. Midlothian Turnpike, the 1A. So if you look at the map there, in 2023, where it curves, there was no access up and down Midlothian.
Mhm.
And so now in 2024, there's 30-minute access. So that right there is huge. I think it goes, where is it, Brittany, to Midlothian?
Are you looking here, Midlothian Turnpike, right here?
Yeah, it goes all the way to Sam's Club and Walmart on
The
Midlothian.
Walmart out there, yeah.
Yeah, so that is huge, significant progress in the southern region that I think we need to bring to everyone's attention.
Yeah.
A change has come. That's what Courtney just said.
Yeah, changes really are coming, and I think it's great to see the progress within the last few years. So much has happened, even in 1 year's time, and you know, the reason for the progress, the reason why it's so important, because it does help when it comes to jobs, and with great jobs, it increases people's income, their opportunities. So this map here is an overview of the previous maps you've seen, but we've added a layer of where there are more jobs and less jobs in the transportation that goes through these areas. So where you see the dark blue on this map, like right here in the middle, that represents more jobs, the orange represents less jobs. And the awesome thing about, you can see right down the middle, is that there is 10 to 15 minute service where there is the most job density. So in the future, we hope that there will be even more, 10 to 15 minute routes when it comes to major job hubs. If you look at the bottom right, you'll see Amazon, GE, and Lego. So we do hope to also get public transit there. Something to note, I'm going to go back, is that this data only updates every few years. So this is actually from 2021. So we hope when the new data sets come out for 2024, that we'll see that these microtransit zones, these high frequency zones, have affected jobs in a positive way, and job density in a positive way. So to take a deeper dive, we're looking right here in the north side. So you can see we have the Azalea microtransit zone. We have the Ashland microtransit zone where there wasn't one in 2023. So with that, there will most likely be an increase of job density because now there is transportation to get to that.
Right.
If you go to the short pump, if we go to the short pump area, there was once 30-minute service and there's 15-minute service, which is really awesome. And for the southern part of the city and into Chesterfield, we have a closed microtransit zone. So this line is showing red, but I would really say it's more of like a yellow green because the microtransit zones again are a curb to curb service within, and they come within a 20-minute time frame. And you can see where Johnston Willis Hospital and Chippenham Hospital is, there is now 30-minute service where there once was not service to Chesterfield Town Center as well.
That's huge. And you know, what I noticed about that map, Brittany, is even though everything wasn't like the dark blue, but the orange and yellow still represents a significant amount of jobs. And so as you can see, the orange and yellows and are still along those major corridors. And so that's why it's so important that, you know, we remind the region that we need the 10 to 15-minute services on these routes, on Midlothian, on Hull Street, on Route 1, because there's so many jobs. May not be as many jobs that are up and down Broad Street, but as you can imagine, the Pulse probably brought more jobs and more income, generating opportunities because of that 10 to 15-minute service. So if that service comes, these corridors could probably turn blue, right?
Yeah, and like we'll talk about later in the report, that there is a statistic that for every $1 billion that is added into transportation, it can bring up to 50,000 new jobs. So as we continue to invest in these 10 to 15-minute services, it will, over time, it'll increase the job availability because people will have access to it.
Great. So what we wanted to do was go into the future, expanding connections. Brittany mentioned about GRTC doing an unprecedented hiring process over the last 15 to 12 months. And so that's allowing the region to expand services. So what to look out for? In June, well, this actually really soon, Route 1 will extend to Reynolds Community College. So the Parham Road campus currently had no access to it. And that was a huge issue or advocacy. And so to know that now people can now get to the Virginia Center Commons, but also access higher learning and, you know, or opportunities to get college education. So that's awesome. And then the airport, every 15 minutes to the airport. You can't imagine being a capital city, but also a city that is inviting businesses and conferences, and we don't have a fast and comprehensive service to our airports. And so 15 minutes to the airport, that's going to be amazing. And then the western expansion to the Pulse will extend from Willow Lawn to Parham Road. Whoa, that's huge. And then the North-South BRT, estimated to come in about 10 years, where it'll start at Azalea and then go all the way to Midlothian Turnpike. And then articulated buses. I've seen a lot of people not be able to get on a Pulse bus because the Pulse has increased its ridership. I think one of the things that I learned this past board meeting was ridership did decrease because of students are out of school. But once those students come back, the Pulse, being able to take the Pulse on those like at 8 a.m. and at 4 or 5 p.m., you almost couldn't even get on the bus. So these articulated buses will allow for more people to ride during those high frequency times. And so this is Stevie. Stevie says, ever since the Pulse came, it helped a lot. It changed the whole format of routes for the bus to go all the way to Short Pump, and you can catch the bus all day long. So it's good news that yes, it extended to Willow Lawn. The 19 goes to Short Pump, but now you'll be able to have 10-minute service all the way through Penn Road. That's amazing. And then the downtown transfer station. So, recently GRTC just last year took over and leased this property from the city of Richmond to put a comprehensive downtown transfer station. Right now, there's real-time destination boards, there's powered shelters, solar-powered shelters, public Wi-Fi, but also a variety of seating options. There even a way where people can charge their phones. And so this is unprecedented for our region, and most cities that have a robust and comprehensive public transportation has a center transfer hub, and our city doesn't have that, a designated place. And so for temporary sake, there was this plot here designed to solve that issue, but it's not permanent. And so I want to just go over some drafts that a consulting firm has done for GRTC and really rallying the region. The CVTA, which is good news, is contributing $6.5 million to expand this. This can happen either on 8th and Clay or on 9th and Clay. So where to the left you see where the current station is now, or the one beside it. And so this can also include, and so the concept is it'll be the transfer station will be on the bottom level, and then on the top level it could be some apartment complexes, offices, meeting spaces, it combine things all over the region for folks to use. And so what's going to really take this is a collective effort from our region investing in this project. And so this is some of bus riders' experience from the current transfer station. They say, I like it. They have Wi-Fi, phone chargers, and they let you know exactly what time the buses are departing. Another writer says, at the last transfer plaza, I had to walk a quarter mile from the 14 and catch the 1A. It's a heck of a lot closer. So because there's more space, it allows for more routes to dock and bay here. Alrighty.
So this year, in addition to all the great things that are happening, we have a new transportation, a new way to get around, and it's a micro transit. I'm not sure if many of you heard of it, but it started in the fall of 2023, and it offers corner-to-corner pickups and drop-offs. A lot of people complain that, when they're riding the bus, it may not be as reliable when regarding to pickup times, but with downloading this app and using the micro transit, which is a free service, it allows a precise pickup and drop off time, which is really awesome. And currently there is the Azalea, the Cloverdale, Ashland, Powhatan, and coming July 1 will be the Sanson Elko. So the most popular and the first one created was the Azalea Micro Transit Zone. And within the 1 mile radius of the Brook Hill Shopping Center, there's over 2,000 employees. So this microtransit zone it's huge. It makes a huge impact on the community. It gives people access to retail, schools, hotels, health, all of those things, residential. So you can see on this map where you see these circles, these blue circles, and these are the most used areas, which is a large job center, Amazon fulfillment center, a rehabilitation center, and the Brook Hill Azalea Shopping Center. And we're hoping that in the future more people do use it for the Bon Secours Memorial Regional Medical Center to get to their doctor's appointments or for medical emergencies. And I think what this map shows is that people need this and they're using it. So definitely if one of these fall within your zone, like I said, it's a free service. It comes within 20 minutes and will drive you all around the zone. So the second one created is going to be the Cloverdale zone, which is mostly Chesterfield, Midlothian area. So it's surprisingly, this is a car dependent and heavily car dependent area. It's being used to go to all the places like Nezalia, employment hubs, health, residential and retail. And it also connects to local routes within the city, 1C and Route 82X. So, and a good thing is when I was talking with GRTC, something to note that these microtransit zones are not fixed routes. So if there is a place, if you live within one of these routes, you know someone and maybe they don't have it on this map, you can suggest it to GRTC. And, you know, if they can, they will make updates to these specific areas.
Okay, so let's dive into Ashland. And so this is quite a far stretch over Ashland. And we wanted to highlight that this zone really provides multimodal connections. And so not only do you have access to curb-to-curb service with microtransit, but now you have access to Amtrak state train station as well. And then also the Ashland Hanover Shopping Center and Mall. And I know the region collectively is working on the Fall Line Trail. And so I can foresee, I'm not quite sure where the Fall Line will fall in Ashland and connect it all, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be within this micro transit zone. And so this zone is really helping folks in the Ashland area have access to over 70 large businesses. And so as you can see, that yellow, that color there represents all the jobs around that shopping area. And so we kind of, to the left-hand side, have a map that shows just visually all the different businesses that are here. And when you see businesses, that also represents jobs. That represents opportunities. That represents people being able to support themselves and support their family. And so now microtransit is offering people the opportunity for that. All right, let's go on to the next section. All right, and this is the Powhatan. Powhatan is fairly new, so there wasn't a lot of data to really gather where folks are connecting the most. And so we may have that within the next few months. But what we wanted to do is just highlight what Powhatan offers. And so this is definitely the main is Anderson Highway in Powhatan. And one of the things it does connect is to the Powhatan County Library. Also, there is the Powhatan Plaza there. And then the Walmart here in the middle that it has access to, Powhatan High School, Flat Rock Village, are also some other shopping destinations and jobs there. And then most importantly, healthcare. And so this is a major Bon Secours Medical Park. And so a lot of people will now have access to doctor's appointments. And then Westchester Commons. And so did you have anything you wanted to add about this particular zone? I know you went to that microtransit launch, Brittany.
Yeah, I wanted to just also say that this was the first public transit initiative in Powhatan.
Okay.
Which is really huge. So
Yeah.
Once again, this is a heavily car dependent area. If residents do not have vehicles, that means they don't have access to everyday things you need, like your health services, schools, all those things. So I think that is really big for this area. So hopefully it does continue to expand in Powhatan and connect. And as you see, it connects to Westchester Commons, which we just hope that it all connects so people have the opportunity for just everything they need.
Great. And so, so when we look at the 2040 vision plan, one of the things that we wanted to highlight with this plan is the job centers around the region. And so Brittany showed you the job density map and some of those areas that had the darker blues or the darker yellows or oranges where there's a concentration of jobs. And so what we wanted to do was name those job centers in the column to the left, and then name the locality. Where are these located? Because we really wanted to bring attention to the region and regional leaders that these job centers are within your region. And you have a relationship, you have influence on policies made, but also budgets that are made that go towards public transportation. Please consider that when you're in business meetings and business deals with organizations coming within your region, that you prioritize access and public transportation. And so we highlighted too in 2023 the access that we've made, of course, red representing no progress, yellow representing some plans, and then green representing that is actually done. And so as you can see, if you look over to 2024, we have made significant progress as a region. This year, we have grown leaps and bounds, especially because of the ending of the bus operator shortage. And so as you can see, let's look at some things that has changed. So Virginia Senate Commons has planned that. And so we can actually change that to green because now we know that there is transportation going to Virginia Senate Commons. If you look at the future Green City project, I believe that is planned. And then there is some link microtransit close by. And then Memorial Regional Hospital now has microtransit. Philip Morris now has hourly, but there's still no access to Hanover Square. And then we can look at the 2A to Stony Point Fashion Park. There was progress there. And then Chesterfield Town Center, that is huge. The 1A now goes to Chesterfield Town Center, but there is still no access to the Chesterfield Amazon Fulfillment Center and the Lego Factory. And so down below, we have made major leaps and bounds to Johnston Willis, the airport, as well as Chippenham Mall and Ashland. So our region as a whole, we're moving along, but we do have some areas where we need support, especially with the Chesterfield Government Center complex. All right. Let's go to the next slide.
So the next pillar that we're going to go into is dignified places to wait. I think you'll really enjoy this section. This week, we've been taking photos at bus stops, seeing how hot it's been, and it's been so surprising. Before I did this report, I did not know that bus stops were getting to these temperatures. So the good thing is that with the passing of House Bill 285, which was passed this year, which was originally working hand in hand with the GRTC's Essential Infrastructure Plan. The goal was to have 50 to 75% of bus stops with shelter seating by 2027, and also focus on improving the ADA compliance at bus stops through coordination with local jurisdictions. Before this bill was passed, it could take over 30 months and involve over several different stakeholders before bus shelters could be installed. So luckily, with the successful passage of this House Bill 285, it will remove some of those barriers so that people can get the shelters that they need in much less than 30 months. So we will see the impact of this mostly within starting in July 2024, and it'll help out GRTC and VDOT. So a lot of progress has been made this year. We're actually, according to this chart, we're projected to be ahead of schedule. So this year, 30 benches were installed in 9 shelters. GRTC has intentions to add an additional 30 benches this year, and also incorporate a pilot program where they will have 3 pole mounted benches seats at the bus stops. If all of these bus shelters and these benches get installed by the end of the year, that will put us about 3% of the goal, which is 50 to 75%. So there has been significant progress with the benches and shelters, but we can see that there still is a lot of progress to be made. So this year we wanted to focus on how does like these bus shelters, like why is it so important for these bus shelters, other than people having dignified places to wait? And we worked with Jeremy Hoffman, who works with Groundwork USA, and Peter Braun. And from this map, which shows the city of Richmond, the black dots represent bus stops without shelters, and the blue dots represent bus stops with shelters. And you can see that these red, these tan and orange lines represent the number of heat emergencies. So where you see the dark red, there's more emergencies. Where you see the light tan, there are less emergencies. So according to his research, 40% of reported emergency medical services responded to heat-related illnesses between the time of 2016 and 22 happened within 300 feet of the bus stop. And I can absolutely 100% believe that. Like I said, we've been out taking photos, and some of the bus stops were at 150 degrees. And it felt quite unbearable, even though me and our intern Jemiah were drinking water. We were going back into air conditioner. We had headaches. We felt so tired and sick after being out there an hour. So just imagine someone who's pregnant or who has health issues being affected by that heat. You could see why there would be health related issues. And at the time when he was doing this research, only 5% of GRTC's stop network had shelters. And from this research that he's done, along with Peter Braun, you can see that we absolutely must have shelters for that number to go down. So here we have at the bottom are some thermal photos. So this was a photo of the downtown transfer station before the bus station was installed, the bus shelter was installed, and then we have a picture of after it was installed. So if you look in this photo, temperatures go up to 108 degrees on a hot day. And like I said, at 104 degrees, within 10 to 15 minutes, heat stroke can happen. Once the shelter was installed, the temperature still hot, but it came to about 90 degrees. So what we've been seeing through taking these photos since 2022 is that places without shelters, without tree coverage, can exceed over 100 degrees easily. And when there is trees or a bus shelter, it can affect the temperature by a 20 to 40 degree difference, which makes all the difference and will help less heat-related illnesses happen. And also from that map that we previously seen, that you can clearly see we need to really invest in areas with southern sun exposure first, because they are the hottest bus routes. And from there, we can, of course, get shelters everywhere else. But I think it's a great way to visually see where our shelters needed the most.
All right, so I just want to dive into another pillar of dignified places to wait. Brittany dove into why we need shelters when it comes to heat-related illnesses, but also Adopt a Stop program. What we have done is when bus riders are also say yes, in addition to us wanting shelter, we also want a clean place to wait for the bus. And so we came up with Adopt a Stop in 2021 to sort of mitigate the litter that's collected at bus stops. And, you know, a lot of times bus stops are in high traffic areas. I do not want us to believe that trash is left by bus riders, what tends to happen is when people are walking through or when wind is blown, if there's a structure or something there, the wind is gonna stop it. And so unfortunately, what tends to happen is a lot of trash collects around these structures. And so what we decided to do was we decided to create a program that where citizens can participate and adopt. And so just this past February, we had our first annual adopters banquet, where we wanted to make sure that we honor these individuals. They are individuals, they are community organizations, also churches who have adopted bus stops. And so as you can see, a before and after at Mechanicsville Turnpike, Wickham and Mechanicsville, adopted by our adopter of the year, which is Faith Community Baptist Church. And so far, since we published this report, we've had 128 bus stops adopted. I believe we've had more adopted since we released this report. In February of this year, we reported 11,819 pieces of trash collected or litter collected. Just alone, Chip and Lynn collected over 2,070 pieces. And then we have 466 recorded cleanings. And so this is recorded. We have an adopter's diary. And so not everybody puts in their diary their cleanings. And so this is just what we've recorded so far. And then every stop in Carytown is adopted by Keep Virginia Cozy. All right, we can go to the next. And the writer's voice. So let's dive deeper into this this section. I know we're gonna probably go a little bit over the 2 o'clock mark. We still invite you to stay, but we're gonna plow through this and spend some time on this. So that's okay. So the writer's voice is our third pillar. We started this with going to bus stops, talking to bus riders, and really wanting to know and wanting to make sure we as an organization our advocacy focused around what riders say that they need and want. And so we'll go into the next slide on how we created programs on how that we can elevate riders' experiences. And one of the experiences that when interviewing bus riders, they didn't know how to get lines extended in their community, how to fix the issues directly. A lot of them believed that, or the only way they could do it was call customer service at GRTC. And, that is a way, but that is probably not the only way to get direct and impactful change. And so we decided to come up with Mobility University. It's a free 5-week training course that teaches bus riders how to self-advocate. Over the past few years, we've graduated over 50 participants. We've hosted 4 cohorts, and we do this every May and September of each year. Some of the session topics include history of transportation, state of transit. And so we really wanted to talk about, okay, where did we start? How did we start? What has caused us to be in this fractured transportation system that we are now? Let's learn about the history of Richmond and how the layers of the history, especially when it comes to our racial past, what are those layers that have overlapped and led us to where we are today? And so we do power mapping, who makes transit decisions. We talk about transit governance and funding. If you can follow the money, you can follow where you can get some things happen in your area. And so we talk about how transportation funding affects the decisions in that area, how to write a public comment, walking and biking, and here recently participatory budgeting. So I just want to say Courtney is now a transit ambassador. She's gone through our program, and she says Mobility University gave me the knowledge, community, and space to build and utilize my advocacy voice. So I'm very thankful to have a voice to affect change in transit directly in my community. So thank you, Courtney. And then we also have the bus stop outreach. And so Stephanie, our community engagement manager and program manager, really leads this bus stop outreach. And so again, the key core way that we engage bus riders is meeting people where they are. We prioritize the real needs and wants of bus riders with this effort. And we interact with bus riders, giving them the news and updates and conducting important surveys. A lot of time, the information for bus riders, such as route changes, and different things like that are digital, and it's not connecting with the actual rider. We know we'll go into deeper a little bit more about who rides the bus, but a lot of people are not connected in those networks to even know the things that are happening in their community. And so what we wanted to do, we wanted to have a one-on-one engaging approach to update riders and make sure that they're participating in these impactful surveys that will impact them the most. We've engaged over 4,000 people in 2023. We had 17 different events. Stephanie led and collected over 364 bus rider experiences and impact stories. And we submit those stories directly to GRTC. GRTC board meetings happen at 8 a.m. in the morning. And on a bus route that comes every hour. So for a bus rider to take time out of their day to go to a meeting. I mean, even for me, if Brittany, I don't know how long it'll take for you. I'm interested to know if you were to catch the bus from your house on a Tuesday board meeting, I would have to leave my house at 5:15 in the morning to be there at 8 a.m. And so can you imagine what people all over the region would have to do? And so we take those stories and we implement them on their behalf directly to GRTC. So let's go into see who rides the bus. So this is really interesting. 70% of people who ride the bus are African American. That really increased. I think last year was 64%. Now it's all the way up to 70. We have 18% white, 5% Hispanic or Latino, and then we have some other. And then you look at by gender, 49% female, 48% male, and then 2% non-binary. And then let's look at the income. The income, if you look at what you hovered over.
So this just gives you the range.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's hard to see. So that's 15 to 25,000. That's about 45%. So almost half the people who use the bus make under $25,000. Okay. And you know what? I would say, yeah, half, because you got to think about the folks who are making anywhere from, let's see, do we have the 10 to under?
We don't have the 10 to under, but like from the report, like you said, over half are making under 50,000.
Right. Oh, so over half too are making under 50,000. And I believe the Virginia poverty line, the last time I checked, it was at 29,000. So we have a lot of folks who are working full time. So let's hop to employment. So 66% of the people are full time, and half of them are making under 25,000. So that means that lets me know that right now the access to jobs, we got a long ways to go, because the access that lets you know that the higher paying job, people are not having access to higher paying jobs if half the folks are making under $25,000. So this is critical. This is huge. And so this is why job access is so important. And that's where we're at. So can you imagine you're a full-time employee and you're still making under the poverty line? Yes. And so we'll talk about zero fare and why that's so important, but I won't go into that right now, but it's crucial and you can see it here. And the reasons people use the bus, 45% of course are going to work. Another percentage is medical, recreation and social went up. And so, and I think that's a lot to do with zero fare too. I think a lot of people are choosing to use public transportation and getting more folks off the road, which is what we want. Okay. And so I know Brittany is going to talk a little bit more about zero fare next.
Yes. And just one thing to note, that all these percentages were like an average ridership across the local routes, the express routes, and the Pulse. So next, like Faith said, we're getting into zero fare. And we want to keep zero fare around because it's made a huge impact on the city. And in this section, we want to call out all organizations that support equity, sustainability, economic justice, and community partnerships. And we want to ask them to tap in. So we'll go over that. So I'm going to read just 2 quotes on the impact that Zero Fare has had on riders. So one is from Brian. It says, I'm going back and forth through programs and a homeless shelter, currently getting my ID and birth certificate and all that. Can't work at the moment, but soon, within a month or 2, I will, thanks to Zero bus fares, hoping it gets extended longer. Another is, I'm disabled, and even with a discount, it still would cost my family a lot of money because my son is autistic and he uses city transit. While we were homeless, we wouldn't have been able to afford getting back and forth to school and work in doctor's appointments and pharmacy and grocery shopping and food banks. We still wouldn't be able to afford fares now that we have housing. So you can see that from the statistics that Faith gave you that a lot of people need this Zero Fare. And in this section, we're going to talk about how can we keep that? So since 2023, we've received the TRIP grant. VCU has given to help Zero Fare happen. GRTC has given as well. But in 2026, that all ends unless there is an additional funding source that is received. Since 2023 to 2025, GRTC received this TRIP grant, and they received over $8 million. So we want the community stakeholders to help keep Zero Fare around because it does make a huge difference on the people of the city of Richmond and around. So the TAP partnership created by GRTC is a public-private joint venture that will allow GRTC to grow a sustainable fare-free transit. And with the buy-in of the TAP program, GRTC also hopes to extend routes, whether it's the microtransit, whether it is essential infrastructure, or even the Pulse. And like I said earlier, for every $1 billion invested in public transportation, it creates approximately 50,000 jobs. So when we do have a strong transportation, we have, major businesses, universities, local and private companies investing in this, it actually does improve the community, not just for rider dependent bus riders, but for the community as a whole. So here are a few quotes from some of the largest companies that they on their pages, they have commitments towards corporate responsibility. And we believe Zero Fare falls within what they're saying. So I wanted to just read a few of these I'll start with CarMax. So CarMax says, we recognize that access to resources is critical to a more equitable future, and that many communities are currently experiencing severe economic hardship. Our focus on building pathways to long-term prosperity through equitable access can help address the economic disparities that exist within undeserved communities. And also, I'll jump to Altria. Increase the diversity of our organization and leadership team while building an inclusive and equitable culture. Advance racial, social, and economic equity and help our communities thrive. So a lot of these large companies have made statements of how they want to positively affect their community. So we would love for them to help to buy into the TAP program so that we can keep this Zero Fare going past 2026. So it's absolutely important that we do get their support to keep this as a permanent thing.
Okay, and I'll dive right into policy asks. So everything you've heard today, these are the things that we want you as a community partner, as another advocate, to help us with, asking your local leaders, hey, we want to see more buses, more places. So expand public transportation, expand microtransit zones to major job hubs like Lego Factory and Chester Amazon fulfillment center. Also, zoning reform to expand affordable housing alongside the North-South BRT corridor. So that new North-South BRT that's going to extend down Azalea, Chamberlain Avenue through downtown, up a little bit up a Hall Street, turn on Belt Boulevard, then go down Midlothian. What I think that we didn't do well when the Pulse was coming to Broad Street, we did not do enough advocacy around affordable housing. And what happened is the folks who depend on public transportation the most were displaced along those corridors. And we do not want this to happen for this new corridor. We want to make sure that the folks who depend on public transportation can easily access the North-South BRT. Or if you're currently living along the North-South BRT and you use public transportation, you are not displaced from your home because of gentrification. And so we want to get ahead of this zoning reform. And right now, I believe the city of Richmond is working on some rezoning. A lot of rezoning is happening right now. And so we need to make sure that affordable housing is definitely along those main corridors where that North-South BRT is coming. Dignified places to wait. We need the permanent downtown transfer station to happen. We need regional collaboration to invest in a permanent solution so that our transit connections can be done well and be done appropriate. Also, increase shelters and installations on state maintained roads. Right now, HB 285 hold no bars back. So along state maintained roads like Laburnum Avenue, Midlothian, Broad Street, and Route 1, we want to see more shelters and benches installed there. And then also use heat reflective or lighter color materials for benches to reduce the absorption of heat. So right now, currently, we do have some current infrastructure. We do know infrastructure is scheduled to be placed and deposited. There has already been purchases made. A lot of these materials currently and the ones to come don't have this heat reflective material. So what we're advocating is that we get some paint and we paint them so that that the heat won't be absorbed. Can you imagine? We were registering the last time we did some advocacy and took some thermal photos. A bench is registering at 130 degrees. So you're hot, you want somewhere to sit, you will be burned when you sit down because they're using darker colors and things, and those things absorb heat. So to the touch. And I think even it was mentioned to me that people had cardboard boxes or pieces of cardboard laid out on benches so they can sit down. And so, you know, what could be a cost-effective solution right now is just to get some paint that reflects that heat. And then for Writer's Voice, adequate and designated spaces for families to bring strollers on board. You heard from a writer, Lima, who described what it's like being a mother, being pregnant, and how that impacts her. More sidewalks on the counties. We have so much expansion coming, so much expansion that has happened in the counties. But one of the major issues is safely getting to those new routes and those new bus stops. If you don't have a safe place to walk or a designated place to walk, it's dangerous for riders. And so as we plan as a region for expansion, we need to make sure that before these expansions happen, and especially around the North-South BRT corridor, that we have sidewalks to accommodate pedestrians. And then last but not least, make zero fare permanent. We want to make sure that zero fare can stay around. So we need local partnerships with GRTC from corporate sponsorships, but also regional. Let regional leaders dedicated not just what you're required by law to from the CVTA to pay into transit, but you need to be setting aside local governments funding that's specifically dedicated to zero fare. And then I want to go into some take actions. Some of the things that you can do to take action is ride the bus, support transit by using transit, save on gas, reduce car maintenance, also adopt a bus stop. And so you can regularly maintain a bus stop in your neighborhood, you or an organization that you belong to. We want to also hear your story. So if you have a story, a transportation story that you would like us to share, an impact story about Zero Fare, how it's impacted you, a story about new expansions, you've been able to use microtransit in a way that has given you more opportunity. We want to be able to share those stories, and so you can call 804-286-0007 and share that recording. And then last but not least, donate. What allows us to continue this work, what allows Brittany to continue this incredible research is donations. And so in order for us to continue this advocacy and to continue this work, we definitely need your help and support. So please consider giving. So we have definitely gone over, but because we have a small group of folks, I want to open it up to you can unmute yourself and we can have a collaborative conversation about questions, thoughts. I think I have about 3 of you guys who are online. You can unmute yourselves if you have a question. Don't be shy. Oh, and then Stephanie also mentioned about if you have any impact stories about heat related things right now. So we really want to hear that story. Ken, I saw you unmute yourself.
Yes, I was just wondering if you could offer some comments on, you touched on it briefly, but I think more needs to be said, and that is about the need for sidewalks, pedestrian improvements, and so forth. Particularly as the expansion of the service takes place, it seems that the routes, the expanded routes are getting ahead of some of the basic infrastructure.
Yeah.
I've witnessed that out here in the far west end where I live, that the bus out to Short Pump, the one out to Gate and Crossing, the stops are basically just a sign, in the grass. And so I think to your point about comfortable places, safe places to wait and access, we need to encourage and prioritize pedestrian access and improvements.
Thank you for acknowledging that. Yes. And that's happening all over the county. So if we can get ahead, especially when it comes to the North-South BRT, I mean,
Right.
maybe if we focus on that corridor
Right.
right now, that could definitely keep pedestrians safe because that bus will be moving a lot faster. Those corridors have a higher speed too. And so these are all ways to keep people safe. So thank you for bringing that up.
Right.
Any other questions? Any other comments from the team, from the staff?
Just one other comment, if I could, and you did briefly touch
Mhm.
on it, but I think maybe people didn't really catch it, and that is, it's encouraging to see all that GRTC is doing in terms of expansion. When you think how far we've come over the past several years, but going forward, there are some. There's a potential for some other areas that aren't served, and one of them being the new Lego plant.
Mm-hmm.
That there's still a lot of details to be worked out for that, but it seems that having robust service there could really be helpful in attracting and retaining employees. And also service that runs maybe 24/7, because I'm sure they're going to operate that plan around the clock. So for the midnight shift worker or the graveyard shift worker, being able to get there, as equally as as easily as somebody who works during the day should be part of the equation.
Yeah, because in relation to that, that's deep in the county.
Yeah.
And even if there was some type of shuttle,
Right.
that maybe left the downtown transfer station or something.
Right.
If GRTC and Lego were a partnership to just do some type of shuttle,
Right.
something, I think it will benefit the region, but also Lego Factory, like you mentioned,
Yeah.
it's probably 24 hours that they will have to run that facility.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Courtney and Stephanie, did y'all want to add anything?
Yeah, I want to just highlight again. I just love hearing in that page of all the different corporations, corporate responsibility statements, and how I feel like we're giving them this opportunity to like actually put their money right where their values are, how they've stated their values. Maybe we could talk a little bit about like strategy for how to actually approach these corporations. Like Altria is so huge in the Richmond region, of course. And so, yeah, like what is it going to take for us? Is it showing up at a meeting of Altria? Is it trying to leverage whatever personal connections we maybe have? Yeah, to just really get that in front of them. Like, hey, this is what you said, and hey, this is an amazing opportunity to do that. So please support Zero Fair. Yeah, what do y'all think?
I think it could be a combination of all of those things. The first step would be, I would think, just reaching out to them, like you said, hey, this is what you have on here. This is what we're doing. Like, we would love for you to be a part of it. This is how it positively can affect your business. And luckily, the TAP program, it accepts larger corporations, as well as smaller businesses. And from there, like once this investment happens, like, hey, the $1 billion, you can get 50,000 jobs, which allows their businesses to scale and for them to have access to a wider range of workers as well.
Agreed. And I'm hoping that the circulation of this report can also help with that because, sometimes you can ask people you can give them the ask, but they may not understand the why.
Yeah.
And that's one reason why we felt that this was important for us to name the statements and the report, because there may be people out there who are looking at this transit talk today who have those relationships with those folks who have the decision-making power and can share on their behalf. So thank you so much, Kenneth, for your conversation. We will make the state of transit report printable. So we just had that conversation today. There's a few things that we want to add, like this micro transit zone that just came out, that's launching in July 1st. Like, that's Monday.
It's Monday.
And
Yeah.
so we didn't want to like have the printable version without that. So we did want to add that zone. So yes, we are working on that and we'll have that for you.
I
Yes.
just want to add one quick thing, Faith, just based on Brittany, what you shared, because at the State of Transit, when we had our reception, I had a conversation with someone and she said to me, she was like, you know what, I actually don't mind paying fares because I feel good about it. I feel like I'm supporting the bus every time I pay a fare. And I said, I hear that. I recognize that. I feel like I've had that same type of feeling behind paying my library fees. I'm supporting the library. But really, actually, though, that fare, it doesn't really support GRTC as much as we think it does. So what I encouraged her to do, because to just rethink it, and because you said this, Brittany, yeah, like the TAP program, it accepts even individual contributions. So that's what I said to her. I was like, look, if you want to feel like you're really supporting the bus, why don't you take your fare and give it directly to the TAP program? Because then that will actually keep that's serving all riders, that's making the bus absolutely accessible to every person who wants to ride GRTC. And that's just such a better way of supporting it. And GRTC doesn't even make that much money off of the fares.
Exactly.
It costs a lot to process those fares. So yeah, I just wanted to share that real quick.
Oh,
That's a great point, Stephanie.
Yeah.
That's a great point because $6.8 million was due to collect in 2022 or now. So that's what they were going to collect if they were collecting fares or decided to go back after the pandemic. And we looked at about 4 million of that 6.8 was actually collected from the bus riders. So bus riders getting on board, paying that either $1, $60, or whatever the case may be. Now it was costing almost close to 2 million to collect the fares.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
we're almost spending 80% of what we collect, we're spending collecting it.
Mm.
Mhm.
So the fares doesn't make any sense. And I just wanted to say that and name that the $6.8 million that is collected, we're spending almost 2 million to collect it. And then that other portion comes directly from VCU and other organizations who pay into the fares so that their employees and students can ride free. So only 4 million, and that $4 million that was being collected physically was coming from folks who are making under
Yes.
25,000 a year. So the $4 million that we were collecting were coming from the most vulnerable citizens of
Mhm.
our region who really can't afford, and they were spending more money because they didn't have the $60 a month to pay to buy the discount. And so,
Mhm.
of course, when you pay per fare, you're spending $1.75 for transfers, and that's actually more than the discounted rate. So, and so this is why fares don't make any sense.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think we'll be releasing a little bit more information about fares. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. If there were no more other comments, I wanted to say thank you so much for joining us for this transit talk. Please continue to share this report and invite us to share this report. So if you are looking at this and you have an opportunity, a platform, a civic association, a community meeting, a church meeting, and you want them to know about what's happening in transportation, we want to be doing that over the next year. So invite us.
Mhm.
So thank you again. Thank you so much for joining RV Rapid Transit. And thank you, Brittany. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you.